The film begins with a prisoner in cell number 211 in a very dangerous prison. He was cutting the arteries of his hand in order to commit suicide in the cell. After that, we see a person named Juan, who takes up his new job in prison. We learn that Juan will work as a guard in prison. Armando and John tell him about the prison and what's going on inside it. They take him on a tour of the prison. Armando tells him that when a prisoner enters the prison, all his things are taken. Then he shows him the prison yard and tells him that the prisoners are released from 9 a.m. until lunchtime. After that, they took him on a tour to the place of the maximum security prison. Armando tells him that the prisoners in the maximum security prison are among the most dangerous in the country, and they are being isolated from the rest of the prisoners because they are very dangerous prisoners and violence is normal for them. He advises him to avoid these dangerous prisoners because they may hide any sharp object with them, even if it is a spoon. He tells him that he should look into their eyes without fear because they can tell the person who is afraid of them. Juan gets worried when he hears this because he knows that working inside the prison will not be easy. At the same time, a guard named Julian, who was going to fetch a prisoner named Malamadra, comes to them. He is a prisoner in the maximum security prison and he was walking in the rest yard designated for the prisoners who are in the maximum security prison. Armando introduces him to Juan and tells him that he is the new guard in the prison. After that, he leaves them to take Malamadra back to his cell. Julian gives them a gun that one of the prisoners had, which is made of iron pipe. Prisoners make it inside the prison. Juan tries to find out through the guards how the prisoners got anything inside the prison. They tell him that the prisoners tell their families to put the things they want in the food. They also told him that there are some guards who bring some things into the prison and give them to the prisoners in exchange for any information that happens inside the prison. They are surprised that the rooftop falls on them by accident. Meanwhile, guard Julian put Malamadra in handcuffs. And when he heard the sound of something happening, he went to check on the guards. Armando tells him nothing happened and it was just a minor accident. They were surprised when they learned that the stone that fell hit Juan and caused him to lose consciousness. They decided to put him in cell number 211 in the prison because there is no prisoner in it until they call the prison doctor. When the guard Julian goes to Malamadra, he is surprised that Malamadra has a gun and threatens him with it. He asks him to open the door for him. At this time, Juan was in the cell unconscious. Armando and John discover that Malamadra has opened the cell doors of the rest of the prisoners and there is a riot in the prison. Because of that, they had to leave Juan in the cell because they were afraid that the prisoners would come to them and kill them. When they left, they closed the general door to the cells. Prisoners throw anything in front of them at the guards through the iron door. At this time, a prisoner enters the cell where Juan is. He is trying to wake him up and find out from him when he came to prison, but Juan did not answer him. Then the prisoner goes to Malamadra and tells him that there is someone in cell 211 who is unknown. This is because Malamadra is the leader of the prison and no one can act without his permission. Juan watches through the cell door that there is a riot in the prison. So he decided to hide the shoes, wallet, phone, ring and everything with him in order to deceive them and tell them that he is a prisoner. Because if they find out that he works in prison, they will kill him. Meanwhile, the prisoner returns to him to take him to Malamadra. When he got out of the cell, the guards and officers watched him through surveillance cameras. They knew he might be in danger, but they did not try to intervene until the orders came to them from the authorities. At this time, Juan was taken to Malamadra. He informs Malamadra that he is a new prisoner who has been brought to this prison for a murder. He told them that the blood on his head is because he provoked the guards when he entered the prison. He tells him this because he wants them to feel that he is a dangerous prisoner, but Malamadra tells him not to believe him because his appearance does not indicate that he is a criminal. But Juan looked him in the eye without fear and told him that a criminal does not have to be determined by his appearance. He told him that he was not the prison psychiatrist to judge prisoners by appearance. Finally, Malamadra believes him because of his bravery and he decides to leave him. Juan then remembers his wife, Elena. She was pregnant and had only 2 months left to give birth. They loved each other and lived happily together. Meanwhile, Juan witnesses that Malamadra has ordered the prisoners to break all the security cameras so that the officers and guards will not know what they are doing. Juan suggested to Malamadra that he leave one security camera so he could negotiate with the officers. He told him they had to cover it all day, but when they wanted to talk to the officers they had to take the cover off. He suggested that he leave the surveillance camera in the courtyard of the rooms, because it shows a large part of the prison. Malamadra thought about his words and he liked the idea and agreed to it. He decided to make Juan his friend because he was impressed by his intelligence. Juan took a rag and walked up to the iron door, covering the camera. Meanwhile, the guards and officers were watching what was happening. The warden and Armando understand that Juan has deceived the prisoners by telling them he is a new prisoner. He deliberately covered the surveillance camera himself in order to explain to the officers his plan and not to negotiate with the prisoners in order to get him out. And also so that he is not taken hostage by the prisoners. They decided to deal with it this way until he gets out of there. At this time Malamadra took Juan to show him the guard Julian who was bound. He asks him if he was the same guard who beat him or not in order to take revenge on him, but he tells him that he is not the same guard who hit him. Then Malamadra gets up and orders another prisoner to stay with him and beat him. At this time the SWAT forces were surrounding the prison. The warden informs Armando and Utrilla that the SWAT forces will storm the prison. Armando tells him there are 3 Class A prisoners in cell 4. In the event that the prisoners know their whereabouts, they will threaten them through them in order to negotiate with them. But the prison warden tells him that Malamadra will not think of this idea and that he will be busy defending himself at the moment of the break-in. These 3 prisoners are international criminals and terrorists at the highest level, and if something happens to them, the whole world will know about it. After that, we see Tachula, a friend of Malamadra and his assistant, as he brings these 3 prisoners. He takes them to Malamadra, and then they remove the cloth from the security camera to show the officers and guards that they've got access to these important prisoners. The prison warden did not know what Malamadra wanted from them when he brought in these 3 prisoners because the surveillance cameras had no sound. After that, the person in charge of negotiation from the ministry arrives at the prison. He tells the prison warden that Malamadra is trying to tell them that he has 3 prisoners whose lives are more important than the life of any prison employee, and he wants to negotiate with them through them so that they carry out his requests. He orders the SWAT not to storm the place. We see all the prisoners cheering for Malamadra because he was able to challenge the SWAT forces and revolutionize the prison. We then see that Juan is writing down the requests that Malamadra wants. And he was asking him to because Juan was the only person who knew how to write. He tells him to write that it is not fair for them to be imprisoned for a month or 2 without being taken out of the cell except for 1 hour. The second request is that conjugal visits be once every 2 weeks. Also, he requested that they be examined directly by the doctor, not behind bars. Malamadra tells him about a prisoner who was suffering from a headache, and they discovered after he committed suicide that he had cancer and he was in pain and could not bear the pain, and because of that he decided to commit suicide. He told him that the cell in which he was placed was the same cell in which that prisoner committed suicide. He told him that no one cares about the prisoners and that the guards consider them mere animals. Juan sympathizes with them. The negotiator then speaks to Malamadra over the walkie-talkie they took from the guard. He tells him that he wants to negotiate with him and that he will fulfill all his requests. Malamadra agrees and tells him that the negotiation will take place inside the prison and that he will not come out to them. The negotiator had to agree to that. After that, Malamadra talks to Juan and asks him about his life in order to get to know him more because he considers him a new friend of his in prison. Juan tells him that his wife is pregnant and that he will become a father soon. Malamadra was disturbed and told him that the feeling of imprisonment would be more difficult because he was a prisoner and his wife was pregnant, and he tried to console him. At this time, Tachula was talking to Apache, who tells him that he is not sure of Juan, and he is surprised at how he approached Malamadra so quickly, and he became his friend. Tachula asked the Apache to ask about Juan and find out everything about him. Then the negotiator enters them. Juan goes to search him and tells him the number of the cell in which the important prisoners are located without anyone noticing him. He then gives him the paper containing their requests. He tells them that he will see the requests and get back to them. But before he goes, Malamadra tells him that Juan wants to talk to his wife and check on her because she is pregnant. Juan is surprised. The negotiator tells him that Juan has to come with him to call his wife. He tells him that if something happens to Juan or they try to beat him up or he doesn't go back to prison, he will kill the hostages. He agrees and tells him that nothing will happen to him. Juan felt that everything was about to end and that he would be free, but while opening the door, Malamadra hears a loud voice from the prisoners, and he thinks that they have been attacked, so he threatens the negotiator and puts a knife to his neck. He takes him hostage and then orders Juan to see what happens. He was very angry because he was about to leave. He went to see what was happening and he found that there were 2 prisoners who had quarreled and that one of them had killed the other. He asks them to hide the dead person from in front of the surveillance camera so that the rapid response forces do not storm the place. The officers see the dead person, and because his face was covered in blood, They thought that he was one of the important prisoners, so they decided to storm the place immediately. Rapid reaction forces moved to storm the prison. Juan takes the 3 prisoners to the prison yard so that the prison warden can see that the prisoners are safe and thus stop the break-in. And when they saw the prisoners and the negotiator, they decided to stop the storming. They told them that they had stopped the incursion, and they asked them to leave the negotiator. But he comes back alone, without Juan. The prisoners were happy that the prison would not be stormed. Their leader, Malamadra, is in control of the prison and threatens the rapid response forces. The prison warden gets upset because the news has spread about the prison and everyone knows about it. At this time, Elena was drinking her coffee in the cafe, and she heard on the news everything that was happening in the prison, so she worried about her husband. She also knew that there was an ambulance going to the prison, which means that there are injured people in the prison. After that, Armando calls her and tells her that Juan is in good health, but because of what is happening in prison, he cannot talk to her. She tells him that she saw the news knowing that there are injured and dead people in prison. But he tells her that the press exaggerates things and there is nothing like that in prison. She feels that he is not telling her the truth and she feels that her husband is in danger. She decided to go to prison to check on her husband. Indeed, she goes and finds that there are a large number of people in front of the prison door because all the prisoners' families are performing demonstrations in front of the prison door. After that, the police clash with the families of the prisoners, and a major riot occurs in front of the prison door. At this time, the prisoners were watching the news on TV and seeing that their family members were being beaten. Malamadra gets angry about this and talks with the negotiator as to why this is so. He tells him that the riot police did this because the people present attacked them, and he promises him that he will try to stop what is happening, and he tells him that nothing will happen to anyone. After that, Armando came out with a number of guards to intervene in the matter and they are trying to control the situation. Elena was in the middle of the crowd and she just couldn't get out of there. Meanwhile, Juan sees his wife on TV and asks Malamadra to give him the walkie-talkie. He informs the negotiator that his wife is among the demonstrators and that she is pregnant. So he asked the riot police to stop hitting people and to withdraw. At this time, the broadcast is cut off from the prison so that the prisoners do not see what is happening. After that, he discovers through the negotiator that his wife is in the hospital and is being treated because of what happened. After that, Apache talks to Juan and tells him that he knew his truth and that he is not a prisoner, but rather works in the prison. Juan tells him that he also knows he is an informant for the guards and is betraying Malamadra. He asks him to know what happened outside with the demonstrators, and in return he won't tell Malamadra his truth. After a few moments, Malamadra calls out to them. So Juan took a sharp tool in case they discover his truth. He will be able to defend himself. Malamadra shows a video of his wife being beaten by Utrilla. He tells him that Utrilla is obsessed with beatings and used to torture many prisoners. He was shocked by that and asked Malamadra to speak with the negotiator and ask him to send Utrilla to negotiate with them, and if they refused, they would kill one of the important prisoners. Indeed, they do what Malamadra asked. Utrilla goes to jail and Malamadra removes him from the surveillance camera. They take him to Juan, who showed him the video and beat him. Then he talks over the walkie-talkie with Armando. He is trying to check on his wife's health. He tells him that she is in good health, but she is in the hospital asleep because she took sedatives. Juan is surprised because his wife is pregnant, so how can they give her sedatives? So Armando is forced to tell him the truth. He told him that his wife and her fetus had died. He broke down and cried. Malamadra hugged and comforted him. The prisoners got angry and beat Utrilla, but he shouted and told them that Juan was not a prisoner. He told them that he was deceiving them and that he was a prison employee. But Juan didn't care what he said and took out his sharp machine and killed Utrilla. Tachula tells Malamadra that Utrilla may be right and that Juan is not a prisoner. But Malamadra tells him that he doesn't believe what Utrilla said, because no employee in the prison would do that and kill another employee so easily. Tachula and Malamadra go to talk to the new negotiator. He tells them that he agrees to all their requests and that he will implement them. Meanwhile, Juan came with Utrilla's body. The negotiator knew that the prisoners had another request. Juan told him that the authorities should say on the news that the maximum security prison was over and that they wanted all their requests on the news to be fulfilled, and that it be approved on the news so that the authorities do not break their words. Malamadra agrees with what Juan said. The negotiator tells them that he will try to do so and will respond to them soon. We discover that Apache sent a message to the prison administration telling them that he would secure protection for important prisoners when the place was stormed. Already the forces are preparing for the storming operation. Apache stands in front of the cell where the important prisoners are, he and his men, to protect them from anyone. The rapid response forces attack and throw smoke bombs inside the prison. Malamadra and Juan decide to go to the cell where the important prisoners are in order to threaten the rapid response forces with them. But they are surprised when they see that Apache hits Malamadra and Juan with the gun he made in prison and kills them. Then the rapid response forces stormed the place and took control of the situation. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for a never-ending stream of movie magic. I will see you in the next one.